the overhand serve for beach volleyball beginners. What's up, I'm Alex from LearnBeachVolleyballFast.com. So from coaching this sport, I've noticed that the overhand serve for certain players can almost be like a source of anxiousness. You know, for players that struggle putting the ball over the net with the overhand serve, when they play and they have to go and serve, they're like, you know, can I do this? Can I not do this? Sometimes they miss, sometimes they resort into underhand serving, and then they feel like they're not living up to their potential, whatever. And what I've also noticed is that for these people that have reached a little bit higher of an age, like they have become adults already and they still cannot do it, it's actually a little bit tricky to teach this skill to these people. However, fortunately, tricky is not the same as impossible. So if you would be one of these players, in this video I will give you 4 different pretty quick tips that usually fixes this for the players that I have coached before. And you can just quickly try these tips out and see if they work, and if they wouldn't, then I will give you even more solutions afterwards. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first tip is basically looking at the footwork and getting that correct, so to say. So a lot of beginners, when they try to overhand serve, they end up doing something like this. And, you know, trying to make the ball go over the net. There is a principle of that the simpler a movement is, the easier it is to repeat. And we need to be consistent with our serve. We need the technique to be easily repeatable. So basically, the steps, feet sort of together. Take 1 step forward with your left foot, if you're a right-handed player. Sort of like that. So what I noticed is that sometimes I maybe take a right step and then left step and hit. But basically the important thing here is the left step, and you sort of step into the ball and hit it through. So actually, if you're home at the computer or whatever, I would actually ask you to stand up and do this in front of the screen. Just think about, have feet together. Imagine there's a ball in your hand. This is your hitting hand. You take a step, toss the ball, step through and hit the ball. The second concept is very much like this, and I would like you to almost think of a scale that's tipping from one side to the other. And the serve almost works like this. So again, we want to keep it as simple as possible and as repeatable as possible. That means we don't want to toss the ball super high up and then the wind can move the ball and whatnot, and then we need to like find the timing and try to hit it. We keep the toss very low and almost just like lift it into in front of the right hand. And where the scale comes in is it works in sync with the step. So it's pretty easy. It's like the scale is this way, down here. We lift the scale, take the step, and then we go down with the scale again. So it's like up, step, through, up, step, down. I hope that makes sense. Third tip. So for this one, I usually do this as a coach for the player. I basically ask them to give me a high five up here. So right now I will do it with this pole here. And then once I have my hand against theirs up here, I push into them. And you can create that same with a wall or pole like I'm doing right now by basically leaning into this arm. And then I ask the player to feel that they have to get engaged in their core to be able to stay stable, because otherwise they would end up here. So your abs or your core has to contract to be able to do that. And then I basically ask them to try to find power from there. Try to have this feeling at the ball contact so that there's some oomph coming from the core as you hit the ball. And honestly, with these 3 tips that I gave you so far, so the step, the sort of internal timing with not tossing the ball so high and finding the oomph from the core. Usually that is enough for players to have their first serve that goes over the net, and then they start building this confidence and whatnot. And this is of course amazing if it happens. So for you, I would say go and give this an honest try. Have someone give you feedback if you're doing the steps. It's kind of hard sometimes to know what you're doing. You know, you might be doing something different, but even though you're thinking you're doing this one step and whatnot. Anyway, if this still doesn't work, I have one more controversial sort of a backup tip. It is to hit the ball with a fist. And this is not for the rest of your life probably. It's a temporary fix because the fist has a little bit more volume or weight or whatever it might be than an open hand. So it just like punches the ball a little bit more, and it makes it a little bit easier to get the ball to fly over the net if you lack sort of the strength and the technique in the strength to get the ball to go over the net. So yes, you might be losing some control and like the ball might be going a little bit all over the place with doing that. But in my opinion, the point here for a beginner that struggles to get their serves over the net is to just start getting them to go over the net and slowly start building the confidence and the technique. And you know, maybe you will end up serving with the fist for a week until, this is easy. Now I have the step, I have the rhythm in my body, this is easy. Now maybe you can change into the open hand and start placing the ball a little bit better. So if you need to use the fist as a temporary tool. So one very important aspect about the fist, if you would end up using that for the serve, is to create this flat surface here. Because I don't know, people might be creating their fist in many different ways, but you want the thumb out of the way so that you have this flat surface. Not like this instead. And how should you contact the ball when you're not doing the fist? Well, I guess a standing serve is primarily a float serve, but we don't need to think about that when we're just trying to get the ball to go over the net. But basically keep the hand flat and sort of engaged and hit it here somewhere. It's almost like a high five, and that will get you going. Later you might want to learn the difference between topspin and floats and whatnot, and sort of refine that. But for now, just get the ball over the net consistently, and then we can work on the details later. All right, so these were the 4 quick tips. I tried to keep this a little bit short and concise. Of course, this could be talked about in so much more detail, but usually these 4 tips make the difference for these beginner players. So if you struggle with this, go and try them out and see if this worked for you. And I will invite you to come back to the comment section below afterwards and tell us how it went. Also, what I will do is in the description to this video, I will add a section for people that these tips were not enough for. So basically more in-depth information in various ways, other videos, etc., etc. And this might get updated with time once I create more content around this. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Hope this makes sense. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you definitely should, because there's a lot more content upcoming and already existing about beach volleyball that you will probably find interesting. Also, if this helps you, or if you know a player that struggles with this, please send them this video so that they can find these tips. And also the last thing I would want to say to people is that if you have your own tips or stuff that you have seen work for beginners for learning how to serve, please write those in the comment section below as well, because then this comment section can become sort of like a forum where we can basically discover new cues and whatnot that works for this problem. All right, so thanks for today. See you in another video. Have a good one.